These are notes on proportions. A proportion describes the scenario when two ratios are equal. According to the definition for proportions, which of the examples below are proportions? So we determine if it's a proportion if we cross multiply our ratios, and if the cross products are equal, then the relationship is proportional. If the cross products are not equal, then the ratios are not proportional. So let's look at A through F to determine which ones are proportional. So the first thing we do is we cross multiply. 2 times 3 gives us 6. 6 times 1 gives us 6. So 6 equals 6, which means that those two ratios are proportional. Letter B. 5 times 1 is 5. 10 times 1 is 10. So 10 does not equal 5. So they are not proportional. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 equals 9. So those are proportional. Okay, 1 times 100 is 100. 2 times 55 is 110. So 110 does not equal 100. So these are not proportional. 1 times 6 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 equals 6. So they are proportional. And lastly, 1 times 25 is 25. 2 times 25 is 50. 50 does not equal 25. So they are not proportional. So to determine if two ratios are proportional, we cross multiply. And if they equal, then they are proportional. If they don't equal, then they are not proportional. We also solve problems using proportion. So when two ratios have a proportional relationship, but one of the values is missing, we set up a proportion to help solve for the missing value. So the example 1 says to solve for x. All right, so x represents an unknown number. Okay, a number we don't know yet. All right, so we use an x as a placeholder for that number until we can determine what it is. So the first thing we're going to do to solve this proportion, 14 to 20 equals x to 50, is we're going to multiply, cross multiply 14 and 50. And when we do that, we get 700. Then our next step says to divide by the value that is directly across from the unknown number, which is represented by the letter X. Now this letter can be any letter of the alphabet except for the letter O, so don't get where you think that X is the only letter that you would see, because it's not going to happen that way in most cases. All right, so we divide by 20 and we get 35. So X equals 35. And if we wanted to know if it was proportional, we would do like we did in the last problem. We would cross multiply 20 times 35 and then 14 times 50, and we should get 700 for each. 700 equals 700, so we know that they will be proportional. All right, example 2 gives us a word problem. So let's look at it. For every 6 rolls of a die, Patrick rolls an even number 3 times. If Patrick rolls the die 50 times, how many times did he roll an even number? So the first thing we're going to do is set up our proportion. All right, and these directions tell us how to set up our proportion. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to write the two things that we're comparing. So we're comparing the number of rolls and then how many times, so number of times he rolled an even number. So it says 6 rows, he wrote an even number 3 times. So if he rolls it 50 times, how many even numbers would he roll? How many times did he roll an even number? So like we did in problem example number 1, we're going to solve this proportion. So we multiply the numbers that are directly across. So 3 times 50 gives us 150. Then we're going to divide by the number that's across from our variable, which is the x. So we're going to divide by 6. All right? And when we divide 150 by 6, we get 25. So if Patrick rolls the die 50 times, he will roll an even number 25 times. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know.